it comes from slow travel in northern rural landscapes and routes for leisure biking. And some kind of emphasis there is with this slow travel, meaning that we are emphasizing that this traveling by bike, not really like making day trips, but more like this, and not so much destinations, but this travel itself. So it's kind of slow way to travel. And of course, biking is very many things nowadays, very specific niches in travel, and we have been concentrating on this kind of tour biking or bike touring, whatever you want to call it in English. And here you can see some bikes or types of biking what we have been doing in this project. But of course, it also can include different kinds of biking, and I think they support each other. Here is also a picture of the new bike carriage in Finnish trains in the middle. So that is also something which we want to emphasize, that it would be possible to reach the routes by public transportation, like trains and trains and buses. So it's kind of more ecological way to travel. And our objectives in our application and in the project have been described as mapping and describing suitable routes. We said minimum 4 for long distance leisure cycling in the northern areas and along existing roads and paths. So we are not paying so much attention to like land ownership issues or possibilities to use kind of terrains. And we are kind of use existing and open for everyone roads and paths. And we also wanted to evaluate leisure cyclists' needs and demand and supply for cycling in the north. So this is Northern Interreg Nord project, and it means that it's northern parts of Sweden, Finland, and Norway. And then we have as an objective to arrange workshops and training for entrepreneurs, providing and networking of businesses along the routes, and do some groundwork for marketing actions. So partners here are Natural Resources Institute Finland. We are the lead partner. Then we have University of Lapland, University of Tromsø, University of Norway, and University of Applied Sciences in Finland, and then Pajala municipality in Sweden. So except Pajala, we are all kind of academic institutions, so we are not really doing the marketing. So we are only trying to inspire people who are doing that. And where are we now? We started in November last year, so it's soon 1 year over. And what we have been doing, we started to map what could be the suitable routes in the northern areas for cycling, for this kind of tour cycling, and did some mapping and did some maps, which are not final maybe yet, but we have been tested these routes during summer, especially here in Finland, but also in Norway and Sweden. And these experiences of these testing routes will be presented during this morning session. And then we have made a report on supply and demand, which will be published soon. It's the main report is in Finnish, but there will be summaries in English and a fact sheet about that. And then these workshops and training will happen with these webinars. This is the second one. We had first one in January, quite at the beginning of the project. And there will be like face-to-face workshops also regionally and more locally during this autumn and winter. And then maybe in next spring we are going to have kind of a little bit more definite plans for these routes and a network who can then continue. So we have been asked different kinds of questions. Often it's a question about what kind of cycling, because mountain biking is so popular here in the north. And we are kind of saying that we are not really doing mountain biking, but of course relating to mountain biking somehow. And then there is a question if northern areas are suitable for bike touring. And we say yes, if the routes are well planned. Of course, we have many challenges, like we have long distances here, maybe only one road going through some areas, not possibilities to choose less busy road, and then lack of services. But if we have this kind of prerequisites, then not too busy roads, not too long distances. If they are well planned, that's a possibility, and enough services and interested entrepreneurs. And natural and cultural attractions, that's something I think we do have. But as you can see in the maps from Outdoor Active, there on the right, the northern parts of the countries are really blank. There is nothing, no routes marked. In the map below, you can see that there are more in the southern parts of the countries. So there is some work to do. And the outcome of the project would be nice to have a network of northern cycling routes, or at least if we even reach one well-planned and branded route to go forward with, that's also okay. And it could be also like biking tourism packages where, for example, the routes are planned earlier and the accommodation package with luggage transportation and so on, which makes it really easy. So that could be also something if we can find entrepreneurs who are interested in that. And maybe we get some answers how this can be marketed and who can be the key actors. Municipalities, visit organizations, entrepreneurs could be the key actors. Then we often get the question, will there be an app or a map, or what, or how we are going to show this for people? We have been discussing about the app, which we think that it's not needed because it's difficult to get people to find that and to join. There are enough apps already. And there are platforms like in Finland, there's a new one, bikeland.fi, which is by the Cycling Tourism Center. And then outdooractive.com, as we can see in the right hand, these maps. But experiences show for us already that paper maps are still important. People like to have paper maps, so that might be something which we will be providing. And in a picture up there, that was mid-September in Kemi. So of course that is one challenge in the northern regions as well, that there can be snow in mid-September. But that's not very usual. And here we have some pictures along the road from Karikasniemi to Utsjoki along Tana River, Tenojoki. So this is a short introduction to our project, and we will hear more about the route planning during this morning. First about the Finnish routes, and then Swedish routes, and then Norwegian routes. Then we will have a lunch break, and after that we have 5 presentations. Andreas Hermansson, Visit Dalarna, Nina Forssell, Visit Arctic Europe, Göri Lovesen, Nordnorsk Reiseliv, Chris Lindqvist Karpelin, Bivia Company, and Georg Sichelsmith, Tourism Lyngenfjord. So I'm sure we will have a really interesting day ahead. And if Pasi or Milla would like to say something about the technical issues, please.
Okay, so here is view webinar practicalities. Please notice that the webinar will be recorded and available on Still Project website for 2 weeks for a bigger audience. And while you are not speaking, please mute your microphone. And you may also use chat or raise your hand function if you would like to ask or comment. So we will then help you with that. That's basically the practicalities of teams.
Thank you. And you are very welcome to ask questions or give comments. The discussion is really important part of this, and we really would like to have feedback of these food plans which we have. So there is always this 10 minutes for discussion, and during the presentation you can put your comments to the chat. But I think that now we can give floor to Outi Rantala and Esa Inkilä. And I can also comment some of the Finnish routes, which we have been testing. Please, Outi.
Thank you. So Esa will be sharing our presentation.
Morning, everybody. Can you see the presentation right now?
Yes, if you put it also to the presenter's mode, slideshow on, so we can see bigger.
So this is not slideshow mode yet.
Not yet.
So
Sieltä alhaalta, jos löydät sen polkupyöräilijän alta.
where is it?
Huomaatko? Sitä dias on oikea alalaita.
Yes.
Sulla oli äsken se hiiri siellä.
Tämä. This.
Kävikään siinä niin, että se on Esalla itsellä esitysnäytössä ja meillä ei.
Yeah, it helps if you choose window and share window, and then you choose that.
Well, how about if I share it now? It's same, still same.
Still same. Now it's only blue screen.
Blue screen. Okay.
We can also try to share it if it's okay.
Yeah, like I don't know, like what should I push right now?
You should push the little thing at the corner where it's like a TV and it's a little play
Yes,
thing.
I think Esa tried it already, but I think it's a matter of. But maybe Esa, if you stop sharing and then we.
Okay.
Yeah.
If Pasi. Okay.
Shall I, Outi, share it, or will you share it?
If you share it, I think it's better because I don't.
Okay, just tell us when to.
Now it's okay.
Now you can see when to change the slide. Thank you.
Yes. So thank you, and my apologies for this. So we will now tell what we have been doing in Finland and for the Finnish case. And you can put the next slide, Milla. So I will say basically a few words for the beginning, how we started our work, and then Esa will go more concretely through the actual pilot routes that we have selected for testing and which we are working with at the moment. And this is very much an ongoing work. So as Seija was saying in the beginning, we might end up with the one route in the end or few routes, but we are still working with these routes and seeing where we go. And at the moment in Finland, we have two groups, student groups working also with the route selection. So this is also impacting our work. But we started at the beginning of this year in January by having a route planning company working for us, kind of doing a pre-selection or pre-work related to the criteria that we had defined already when we were planning this project. And you can see the criteria in the slide now. The first part when we started mapping the routes. So we wanted to pay attention, especially how heavily trafficked the routes would be, so that it would be safe to go. And as Seija already said, we were concentrating on existing roads and routes, and especially not on private roads, for example, in Finland, because that would raise issues with the landowners. We had a focus on border regions with Sweden and Norway. We wanted to highlight routes where there would be public transportation, so connection to train or bus connections, and this is something we have been testing. And also we wanted to select routes where there would be lots of kind of attractions, either different kind of services, cultural services, tourism services, or different kind of possibilities to do also other things than biking. So the focus was on this kind of a slow movement, biking and stopping to do things and using local services. And based on this criteria, we had this company doing selection of and doing a pre-selection, and we got several route options, and at the same time ESA actually from our behalf was doing research on existing biking projects, and then we were comparing on what was going on already on biking development together with this pre-selection of routes. And we could see that in, for example, in Western Lapland, there is good possibilities for developing this kind of biking tourism, but there is a lot of mountain biking development going on already. Whereas in Eastern Lapland, there was less biking related projects going on. So we chose to focus first in 4 different areas, which we will soon be showing you. And we did kind of this selection of focusing a little bit more on maybe on eastern part of Lapland, since there was not yet that much development going on, whereas we could see that mountain biking development was already quite strong in western part of Lapland. And after selecting the four different areas to continue working with, we did some mapping of services. So we sent a survey to 350 enterprises. We got a bit over 50 responses, so companies who were interested in joining us for developing biking tourism. After that, we have been going around or circling these areas and routes. So when ESA was first going those routes through by driving them with the car in spring when there was still some snow, and then in summer we have had several testers ourselves, and also student group, and then just people we have kind of hired to test the routes. And we have been collecting information, and we have been also visiting the services. So now we have a list of approximately 70 contacts along these 4 different route areas that ESA will be now introducing to you. So go ahead, ESA, and Milla, you can change the slide.
Okay, thank you, Outi. So here you can see in the map our 4 roads or areas what we have chosen right now. As Seija and Outi both say that it is still kind of living, or it depends the observers who are interested what roads we are developed. But right now is this in Eastern Lapland roads, Teno River Road, Torneo River Valley roads, and Hetta-Kilpisjärvi Road is right now what we are working with. And next, yeah, thank you. So now I will tell a little bit details for this different area, what kind of findings we have found during the summer and this mapping. So for the Eastern Lapland roads, the public transportation is quite nice there because there's a train, but also buses are possible to come to Kemijärvi, where it's kind of good hub to start this cycling. And there's a different roads possibilities, the different lengths, like from day trip for the weeks. So that's kind of for that area, it's kind of strength. And like what we have worked now, there's a like loop of Suomu, loop of Pyhä, and Eastern Lapland loop, what is like a little bit bigger. But Suomu and Pyhä area, it's just like from 1 to 3 days. So it's kind of fun. The services is quite a nice distance, these shorter trips, and there's interesting things or sights to see also during the way. Next slide, please. There's a photo, it's in Joutsjärvi, that's a like war historical site. And next slide, please. This photo is from like on the way from Salla to Savukoski on the way. Next slide, please. And there you can see Pyhä Felt behind of Pyhä Lake. Next slide, please. And then 1 hour pilot road is Teno River Road. It's a border road with Norway, and there's possible to kind of combine the roads from Karikasniemi or Utsjoki or Nuorgam, and maybe like as we all know the situation right now with this pandemic, so we haven't had really time to kind of make like border roads together. So it's just maybe that's what we can do also in the future. But anyway, one of the most beautiful road in Finland is from Karikasniemi to Utsjoki, and this picture is also from there. And it's a beautiful road, but it's a little bit challenging. There's a height and not that much services, but as seeing, and there's that part is not that trafficking, so it's nice to cycle. And like as all these pilot roads what we have, like during the summer when I rode this, the traffic wasn't that bad. But if there's no this pandemic situation, maybe there's caravans and cars much more. But my experience on this summer was quite nice. But that's also kind of a challenge in the future. How is really the traffic on these like main roads? But let's see that. And next slide, please. Yeah, do you say I want to say anything about this photo or?
Yeah, well, I could say about this route in large. So this is from the hiking route, which starts from the road from Kaamanen to Karikasniemi, and it's very famous and popular route. And there are also possibility to walk a little, because that is something what we have been thinking, that there could be some kind of combined things that people can maybe do some other things than just cycling. But of course, this 62 kilometers is quite long. But anyway, the pictures from the Teno River route, I think, along the road, I think it's very beautiful. And as I said, that it's very very good idea to develop that. And I know that we have also people from Utsjoki municipality here present, and they are eager to develop cycling tourism. So I think that's very good. I think the next slide might be also mine, so you can change. Yeah, this is from Tenon Eräkievari. It is an accommodation place 8 kilometers from Karikasniemi towards Utsjoki, and that's one of the services there are along the route. But as I said, it is a little bit challenging, especially as one of our group had electric bike, and charging that, it's not very easy. So there is something like 80 kilometers where you don't have possibility to charge. So there are many kinds of services actually which are needed, like bike repairing, bike rental, and these charging possibilities, for example. So there is some things to develop, but very, very nice surroundings. And let's see if the next one is mine as well. I don't think so. That's Esa's turn now.
Yeah, thank you, Seija. This photo is also in Teno River road from Karikasniemi, Utsjoki. Yeah, next slide, please. And then we have Torneo River Valley roads, and that's what we have discussed. It's also really good possibilities combined with Sweden, but now we have also kind of on process because the same situation that I mentioned earlier. But like on this area also the public transport, there's at least from Finland side, there's the train along from Kemi to Kolari, so it's kind of nice to start the trip like many different stops there. And there's a kind of interesting border towns, Kemi, Keminmaa, Tornio, Ylitornio, and Kolari. And this, what we have now, the pilot road, is like from Kemi to Kolari, but it's kind of maybe one kind of possibilities also just put a little bit shorter loops or roads like combine just for example Kemi, Tornio, or as I said earlier to combine towns in Swedish size. So this is really what we have to kind of go deeper and focus. And now we have the students group also working there. Wait. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, this is photo on the way, and in left side you can, it's a Sweden, and it's just like few hundred meters, so it's really close to the border. The roads are, these pilot roads are going as well. Next slide, please. This is nearby to Kolari. Next slide, please. And this is old church in Kolari town. Next slide. And last pilot road fit what we have is from Hetta to Kilpisjärvi, and that's also like a border road with Sweden and Norway. What is possible to combine like cross-border roads, and one like as this picture, there's kind of one highlights what you can find during that road is the highest point of roads in Finland. And as closer to Kilpisjärvi you reach, the landscape views are really beautiful. So that's also as a views, the roads are really nice, but they're still kind of challenging as there's a like long distances and lack of services, and it's not like really for beginners, but a little bit when you have already experience for cycling, this is also at least I like to ride this, but also this as well because it's going on the like main road. So problem is in the future maybe the traffic, but still combined with this Norway and Sweden, I can see also possibilities in this road developed as well. Next slide, please. This is a really busy police station in Hetta town. You can see next slide. Please. Next slide, please.
I think we could see
okay.
already
Okay,
the one slide. Yeah,
okay,
where,
sorry, I it didn't change, and I just saw this
Yes.
police station. But
yes.
this is on the photo on the way. There's a long, yeah, it's quite big hill, but in the photo maybe you can't see that. That's also kind of a little bit challenging in that way. But it's the views are still quite nice. Next, please. This is top of the Saana fell. That was kind of finish my or this presentation as well. And
Yes, maybe we can say as a kind of concluding remark that we have been now testing the 4 different areas and 4 different possibilities. But as you could hear from Esa's presentation, that the COVID pandemic has really impacted our testing. So we have not been really able to do this cross-border collaboration yet. But for example, in this case of Kilpisjärvi, soon when the Norwegian partners will be presenting their work, you will see what type of possibilities there are, and the same with the Torneo River Valley case and the development that has been taking place on Swedish side of the border. So these are things that we will have to probably test and develop further during next year if the borders are then open. And also another concluding point would be that we can see that there's differences. For example, the Eastern Lapland routes, they are they could be more targeted for those who are kind of beginners, who don't maybe have that much skills, who can. It's easy to rent bikes, e-bikes, for example, and there's transportation. We tested this with a student group, so it was easy to rent bikes and get transportation for the bikes, transportation for luggages and for people also, and the distances are short and there's good services. Whereas the Teno River and Kilpisjärvi-Hetta area are for people who have more experience in biking, and this is also, I think, a possibility to have different type of options for people with different type of skills and experience. But this is all that we have from Finland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esa, Outi, and Seija. My name is Kristina Svels. I work at the Natural Resources Institute Luke in Finland, and also I take part of the STEEL project. I'm responsible for communication, and I'm going to guide the discussions here today. So now we have time for 10 minutes of discussion before we start the presentations of Sweden and then afterwards on Norway. You can post your questions in the chat or raise your hand when having a comment or a question. And also you can use your Scandinavian languages if you feel more comfortable speaking Swedish, Svenska, Norsk, Suomea, and I think we all will understand the mixture here today. So, is there anyone that wants to ask Outi, Seija, and Esa a question or comment on their presentation? We have the first the first comment we have here, where will this be uploaded? The recording will be on the website of STIL, and then we will link it also on our Facebook and our Twitter account, but I can put that in the chat afterwards. The first question we have here: did you meet other bikers or tourists along the routes when you tried out the routes?
maybe I can answer for this. Did I met any other bikers? Like I can honestly, I can count them in one hand. So no, it's not that many bikers, and actually most of them, kind of actually all of them were like foreigners, not Finnish people that I met, like from Germany, France. Was it like few from Germany, but yeah, like just few cyclists that I met. But yeah, there was one couple. They were Finnish, so not also few Finnish people. But yeah, that's for this. Did I met any other cyclists? But for sure, this area in Finland, the Lapland, the focus is in the mountain biking, so that's more popular. There you can find more people, but in the like on the way on the road, not that many. At least my experience was during my test trips.
And as
I
I have inside information here, I can tell everybody that Esa did all the routes on the Finnish side. He biked all. How many kilometers did you bike, Esa?
Totally, I think 1,200, 300 kilometers. But
yes,
totally. Yeah.
I could also answer on my behalf that I did the Teno route and then some part of the eastern Lapland route, and no other bikers, I would say road bikers, like going very quickly, long distances maybe, but without any luggage. So I didn't really meet any people with luggage. So we have a lot of marketing to do, I know.
And I myself, I did a couple of days in the Torneo Valley River, and I met a lot of reindeers. So that was an experience by itself. No people, but a lot of reindeers at the time.
And maybe I can say just one short comment that I was biking with the student group in Eastern Lapland route, and there we have had some other bikers also, not at the same time, but I have been discussing with the local people, especially from this Tapionkylä village, and they have been also, the locals have been biking these routes, and also some tourists. So there has been some people.
We have a question from Arild Rökenes.
Yeah, I think you just go to the chat questions and take our guests first.
Yeah, okay. Camilla Boström asks, how is the mobile reception up in the more remote areas? Does it differ a lot from Sweden, Norway, and Finland? Telecommunication, I guess she refers to when asking about mobile reception.
In Finland, at least, it works really well if I answer along these routes, no problem. But there was also a question when the mapping will finish, was before Camilla's question. So in our project, I think it will finish by the end of next spring or at least end of next summer. So we are still kind of looking at these issues.
And then a comment from Hans Topt, who is curious about the details of the criteria for the routes, traffic density, road surface quality, access to services, etc. And he says that Eurovelo has a criteria list which might be a handy reference point and could be considered. Thank you for that. Nida Forsell asks, did you consider planning routes between travel destinations, for example, in Western Finnish Lapland, or was it a clear choice to make routes between towns? There could be more services in travel destinations. Do you want to comment on that?
Maybe Seija wants to continue, but I could say that we were, for example, we know that in Western Lapland there is a lot of development going on already, and maybe this is why we concentrated a bit more on Eastern Lapland, because it has not been developed that much yet, and this is something we have been testing in Eastern Lapland. For example, these that with especially what Esa was doing, a longer loop where you can visit Suomu and Salla and then all the way around so that you end up in Pyhä and then back to back to Kemijärvi. But there we had a problem in summer that, for example, the services in Suomu were all closed in last summer. So some of our groups who wanted to test the Suomu loop, for example, then ended up testing other routes because there were no services available. So this is something I think that we already have recognized when we try to develop summer season, that if the services are closed, it's difficult to start the development process. But this is, yes, I think we have it differs a little bit of the different areas that we chose, and maybe in the future we will also have to look at Western Lapland. But I'm not sure if Seija wants to comment also.
Maybe only that at the beginning of this project we had this idea of kind of developing rural tourism and not really destinations which are well developed already. So we were kind of and are still kind of looking like quite small services, like some farms which can offer some food services and so on. Also some small scale accommodation. So that's maybe especially at the beginning the idea, and if we find that kind of small scale services in rural areas outside the big destinations, that would be really nice. But of course, that is really one thing to consider about these bigger resorts, how to use them in a way. And of course, like bike rental, for example, mountain bike rental is available in those destinations and resorts, and then it can be combined to different kinds of bikes as well. So it might be easier in that sense to get services. That's a good question.
And maybe this is something that we have been thinking now, especially in the kind of related to Pyhä and, for example, Tapionniemi village, which is some 25 kilometers, I think, from that. It has shown us that it's since the bike rental is easiest from these tourist destinations, that then kind of doing these kind of cycling tourism from the destinations or tourist centers towards the different villages around these destinations. So this could be one option also, that kind of one night trips from these destinations to the villages to develop rural tourism. But as Seija said, we have been testing a little bit more these rural tourism services.
Thank you. We are going to finish up with Parkoore's question. You had your hand raised, so perhaps you can ask it yourself.
Okay, so thank you, Esa and Seija and Outi for your presentation. I think Esa mentioned in long distance cycling, and then perhaps a question related to that: according to whom? Who determines what is long distance? The last cyclist I met a week ago started from Paris in France 2 months ago and was heading for North Cape. That's also a long distance, obviously, and the type of traditional cyclist we meet along the main road, the E6. And I think we will get into this when presenting our cases a little bit later. So tying this to the experience level that you also talked about, and when determining what is long distance using a bicycle, and then also connect it to what kind of bike you have available. You have mentioned e-bikes, and with the support of motor, what happens then? What else? Yeah, and the support services. I noticed also that in your pictures you bring along your luggage when biking, and that's and of course there are alternatives to that too. So a combination of comments and questions, I guess, to you from me. Thank you.
Who will start?
Well, I'd like to start. So of course, long distance is relative, but basically, I think that in our project we think about like several days or overnight at least. So not the day trips as such, but it's of course relative. If you have family with children of 5 or 8 or something, you don't cycle so long, or so it depends a lot, I think. And these support services, you are right about that, some of us had tents even and all the camping equipment. Some didn't have, some testers, I mean, and some used accommodation. But basically we are thinking of kind of developing services and using services along the route. So accommodation between sheets would be nice. But Taneli Roininen has hand up as well, so can we take that?
Yeah, couple of minutes.
Hi.
And then we go over to the Swedish presentations. Yes, go ahead, Taneli.
Yeah, I'm Taneli Roinen, the project manager of Arctic Bikepacking Trail 2 project. So the original Arctic Bikepacking Trail route development project ended, and it continued with the Arctic Bikepacking Trail 2 project, where we'll publish the route, continue the route development, and also look into electric bike touring. And our goal has been from the start to connect the services, service points, the natural attractions in the Arctic area. And in the current project, the natural continuation for the development of the route system was to make the routes the train stations of the Lapland, so Kemijärvi, Rovaniemi, Pello, and Kolari. And just to let you know, that's what I've been doing this summer. So I've been scouting routes before 5,000 kilometers this summer, and then, like the name suggests, bikepacking is bicycle touring, orienting more towards gravel roads, is to cycle trekking routes even. But in the current extension of the project, we are looking into gravel routes, and I have routes covering nearly the whole Lapland, and I think we could, like what I've done. I have the services along the routes as well, so we should definitely look into the synergies of what the paved, the traffic-free paved sections you have found out, how we can take advantage of them and combine them with the gravel road touring system I've been doing. But I think these two projects will work eventually nice together. So great to be here.
Thank you, Taneli. Yes, we have been working together with Taneli from the beginning of still, I would say, like mixing the information and communication. But there are still some questions in the chat, and I think the Finnish team could answer them as we go. And now we will move on to the Swedish routes by Johanna Kollen and Roger Marjavaara. Uusitalo. Names get mixed up. Sorry for that.
Okay, so Roger will be sharing the slideshow.
Yes, I will see if it works as planned. Do you see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so hello and greetings from Pajala, Sweden. My name is Johanna Kollen and I am here today with Roger Uusitalo, and we are here on behalf of Pajala Municipality. Pajala Municipality joined the project a bit later. It was from the beginning of February. So we have not been along from the start. And today we are going to talk about the current situation and what the future might hold for the steel routes in Sweden. And next slide, please. So in order to gain knowledge and insights regarding the current situation for bicycle tourism and circumstances in Norrbotten, we have interviewed 9 people. And all these persons are professionally connected to tourism and or cycling, and they are active in local destination companies, destination management companies, national cycling promotion organization, a tour operator, and 1 municipality. And we could draw these conclusions from the interviews. Bicycle tourism in Norrbotten is mostly an uncharted territory. It is underdeveloped in almost every aspect, apart from some individual entrepreneurs who offer some cycling-related activities. But all agreed that there is a considerable unexploited potential in Norrbotten. And we can ask ourselves that what are our strengths then? Well, we have the midnight sun, our rivers are unexploited, and we have the nature. Plus that there aren't so many of us in Norrbotten, only 2.52 inhabitants per square kilometer, and there is almost 99,000 square kilometers. We can offer all-around experiences that are not mass-produced, and this can be something important for people who are seeking more individual experiences, and also for companies who want to map and develop their customer experiences. Sami culture is probably something that will interest especially tourists coming from Middle Europe. And also this could be developed into a real, both tangible and intangible assets. Next slide, please. And I am talking about 4-legged inhabitants in Norrbotten. According to Sametinget, the amount of reindeers varies from 225,000 to 280,000 in Norrbotten in the wintertime. So there is almost the same amount of reindeers and inhabitants living in the county of Norrbotten. So I think that we can guarantee that if a bicycle tourist from, for example, Middle European countries want to meet a reindeer, that is going to happen. And next slide, please. Here you can see our loops that we have created during the last spring. And these routes are preliminary, so we can still change them. And the routes are passing Haparanda, over Torneo, Pajala, over Kalix and Kiruna municipalities, and maybe even later Kalix municipality. And altogether, they create a network of 1,433 kilometers, and they are of varying lengths and difficulty. The longest and the northernmost loop is the most challenging, as there are not services available very often, and this is definitely something that has to be taken into account if one wants to go biking up there. The routes were chosen mostly on the basis of traffic volume and scenery, and we have tried to avoid heavy traffic as much as we can. And last summer there were practically roads work in every direction, so it was quite difficult to test. But hopefully we will be able to test drive and even recruit more testers for the next summer period. The loops with the dashed lines are the possible future routes, and Roger will talk about them later. Next slide, please. So in order to chart what kind of a survey is available along the routes, we conducted a survey for companies and associations. And by last week's Friday, we have received 29 answers, most of them coming from accommodation providers like hotels, campings and bed and breakfast. And all of them are open on the summertime, so at least accommodation should be available, and also most of them offer it for only 1 night. When it comes to the other services that are relevant for cyclists, like the possibility to wash one's bike and do some service also on the bike, the options vary a lot. But right now I'm not going to go more into that. Next slide, please. So here are some thoughts from some of the entrepreneurs who answered the survey. And here is also a picture of one already closed summer cafeteria in Anttis, north of Pajala. So bicycle tourism is increasing, but the area is somewhat difficult to develop. A good development of the tourist industry we already have. All new thoughts and ideas regarding development of tourism in our area are interesting. But we have to remember also to take payment for the services. Guests should get information about the prices of the services. It's environmentally friendly, very timely. We have calm roads here and a lot to visit within a bicycle distance. And next slide, please. It inspires you to develop summer tourism. It motivates also our current investment in our company. We need bicycling and MTB maps and digital maps for Torneo region. In Jokkfall is one of Sweden's longest bicycle route systems, which has been overhauled to some extent, but there are plans to continue with the overhauling. And this picture here shows a point where our 4 Finnish test drivers stopped, and they like that a lot. It's an old gas station from 1940s, and it's still selling fuel, and it has a kiosk also. And next slide, please. So here are some comments from our test cyclists. They thought that the roads were mostly good, villages looked nice, and views were interesting. And mostly there was not a lot of traffic, and iron ore trucks gave way. And passing bridges was very nice, and they enjoyed the views. And something that they also admired here was the huge, neatly cut lawns people had in their yards. And next slide, please. Rivers, sceneries, and crossing the rivers was nice. We enjoyed the wilderness scenes, like, for example, marsh. I liked changes in the scenery, different kinds of roads, lakes, rivers. And next slide, please. And here is an example of a possible summertime activity in Överkalix municipality, a promenade with reindeers. And next slide, please. And here is a picture from Jakob Gordon, a yard shop in Överkalix. And the next slide, please. And here is a question that we all should pay attention to, not only us in Sweden, but also in Finland and Norway. What makes cycling here a unique experience? But now it is Roger's turn to continue. So Roger, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Johanna, for really you put the finger on what we have to develop on the Swedish side and how the current situation is. So what is the experiences from this year where we wanted to test a couple of loop routes in Sweden that were connected to their bridges to Finland, so you could have cross-border loops. As you all know, the pandemic has turned the world around in many ways, so we were not able to make any cross-border loop testing. And that also showed that when we had, as you see in this map, the red lines are the roads that were chosen to be a part of the testing routes in Sweden. And you can see that there is only a few loops in Sweden that we initially thought were nice to be tested. But we soon find out that this kind of long loops that are few and far in between are vulnerable to road maintenance work, because this season we had unprecedented many road constructions in this region, and it affected all the loops, and that made it really not so easy for the slow travel, easy tourist that doesn't have that much experience about biking, and they maybe don't have the right kind of bike if they're going through the maintenance work area. The northern part of Sweden is really underdeveloped and has no big traditions in bicycle tourism, as the most of the tourists are coming from the southern part of Europe, and they bike usually up to the North Cape or going to Norway. So that's make it also harder for us to get local testers. Our area that we have chosen is along the river system, the Torneo and the Torneo river system, especially focusing on the north part of the rivers. And because of that, we had quite a challenge to get testers. So one other experience we had is that we need loops closer to the population centers in the southern part of the Torneo River Valley, and hopefully in the Kalix River Valley, that is approximately 50 kilometers from the border to Finland. And one thing that has, if we want to have tourism that is suitable for many types of target groups, we need to develop the tourist infrastructure. And this is not only the roads and maybe where you can take a break, it's where you can store your bikes. It's also about repairing the bike on site, maybe have some kind of companies that are specialized to give service out on the road, because it can be quite far to the nearest repair shop. So there is also the information part of it. There are a lack of maps, both the physical and the digital maps, and also information about how the scenery or the traffic is, or what kind of road it is, if it's a gravel road or if it's a paved road. So I had, for example, I had a man called me and asked, I heard that you're working with this project for cycling. Do you know if it's possible to follow the border river from Karesuando to Haparanda? I heard people say it's impossible to bike there. And I said, there is no problem. And it's a little bit few services, but you can bike there. And then afterwards, he called me and said, yeah, if I had got the information directly, I would have gone biking. If I didn't call you, I wouldn't have gone biking in this area. So, benchmarking for next year. From the experiences that I was talking about in the earlier slide, you can see here in the map a gray area. This is the loop system that we have chosen in 2021. And because of the main things that I said in the last slide, when presenting the last slide was we have some vulnerabilities, and we need to expand the loops to the southern parts of Sweden. So we have Swedish loops if the pandemic somehow continue to hamper the cross-border tourism, that we have loops in Sweden that makes it possible to benchmark. And here you can see the same map that Johanna showed earlier about the selected loops and also extra loops that we may test next year. Hopefully the pandemic has subsided or vanished, but we have to think about when we are talking about different target groups, as Per Kåren was saying about, asking or telling about, it's different kinds of target groups have different kinds of level of what's an easy route for them. For example, you can see in these two maps, in the gray box in the middle of the loops, you can see the distances. This is the map on the left-hand side, and you can see the northernmost route here is 323 kilometers. It's lack of service points, and it's also not suitable for families. Not many 10-year-olds would be able to finish this kind of route. And you see also it's the routes that are in the map on the left-hand side. You can see that even if there are shorter routes, they are still quite long and a little bit more difficult than maybe people from the southern part of Europe or the southern part of Sweden is used to. So then you can look on the map on the right-hand side. The loops that have a gray area inside is the already chosen roads that we want to test. And the loops that have a orange box with the distance in kilometers is the extra loops that we are talking about. It's in Överkalix that we have already decided, and there's also in the Kalix municipality that is close to the coast, that is bordering to Haparanda municipality that is in the south eastern corner of Sweden. So why are we choosing more loops? That's a question. Because we want to be able, if you see the pictures here, both Johanna and I, we love reindeers. That's why we have reindeers on almost every picture. So here you can see two kids. If they're going biking with their family, there needs to be shorter loops with not so heavy traffic and also many things to see, because children get bored very quickly. So in this region that is in the map on the left-hand side, you can see that many of the loops are much shorter. Just take the example, the route number B that is south of Torneo. It's 28 kilometers long. Compare it to the loop that is farthest north, that is 323 kilometers. This is a loop that is for entirely different target groups. And this area also suitable as a test area because it's near 4 municipal centers. It's Överkalix, Torneo, Kalix, and Haparanda, the 4 municipalities in the they are in like a 4-cornered quadrat. So it's easy, it's short distances to, if you want to travel short loops. There is close to service points and like accommodation, restaurants, bike repair shops, and different kinds of scenic and tourist infrastructure. For example, from Morjärv to Karungi, in the middle of this map, there is a green line going, dotted green line. Along this road, there is an old railroad where you can go, I don't know the English word, but you can like bike on the old railroad track with with a special vehicle. And you have also the coast, you have the rivers of the Kalix and the Torneo River, you have also the unique selling points of the Struve Meridian geodetic arc, sorry, that is in the border region to Finland. And you have different kinds of unique selling points and nature attractions. So that's why we have chosen to, we want to expand the test area so we can target many more tourists or target groups with especially families. And it's also due to what we experience about the extensive and many road construction work in the summertime, we chose to have many loops that makes rerouting possible. So you don't have to rely on just one road. So that's our benchmarking goals for next year.
Roger, I need you to start to wrapping up now.
Yes, this is the last one.
Thank you.
What do we want in the future after this project? I have a suggestion to all the stakeholders and to other to the entrepreneurs and destination companies. What about having a joint project that is called Steel Cycling North, biking in the heart of the Arctic? And the heart is the area that is in the north, and it could be conducted after the conclusion of the Interreg Nord funded project Steel Slow Travel in Northern Landscapes. That's just an open question mark, you can say. And thank you so much, and please feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you, Johanna and Roger. Beautiful pictures indeed. It was really welcoming to come and bike in your side of the border that we had planned to do but didn't do after all. We have some comments here in the chat now from your presentations about a request to have a survey at the service points that could be applied both in Finland, Sweden and Norway as well. And also a remark, a comment that the routes could be classified as difficult level, according to difficult levels, easy, very easy, and so on. Would you like to comment very, very shortly, 1 minute on these comments, and then we will move on to the Norwegian presentation?
Yes, we have maps. We're going to produce maps with this kind of information. It's needed.
Thank you. That was brief. But yes, I welcome the Norwegian project team. I don't know, is Arild or who will start your presentation? Arild Rökenes will start.
Hello. Do you see my presentation now?
Yes, very well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Arild Røkenes. I work at UiT, Norwegian, Arctic University of Norway. I'm going to present parts of the routes in Norway, and then Per Kåre will take over. So hopefully this will be a little bit interesting. First of all, just to say how we collected the data that we are going to present. We had some workshops with in Kautokeino municipality and in Alta, and we have met businesses, event organizers within biking. We have talked to destination companies and the municipality as an organization, and also represented by reindeer families. You can see the pictures. First, we had a meeting on the local meeting we had on Teams because of Corona, and we had the first physical meeting in May in Kautokeino, where we had worked with the people from Kautokeino. And you can see the map is on the table, and we discussed the different kinds of alternatives, routes, and what was in the routes. We also used our own experience as cyclists and some old reports, because this is kind of a known area for biking and hiking, because this is the old post route from Alta to Copenhagen last century or before that. Anyhow, we have thought about that this came up with kind of 3 alternatives, and we are talking about the route from Hetta here and to Alta, which is here at the coast. This map is not very good, but I think you get kind of the main idea of what we were thinking. Yeah, the main challenge is about the routes. We have tried to identify selling points and main challenges. And we could say along the road route, there is, as in all other places, it's long distances, but it's also an interesting question. What is a long distance? What we see here is that it's no restaurants or shops between the border and Supatjärvi. So then we are talking about 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers from Hetta. It's also heavy traffic. You see the road here. It's basically more or less like this. And at worst, it is 270 trucks every day or 24 hours. And that means actually that you will have a truck every 5 minutes. Of course, it's not like that all months, but this is the summer traffic. And maybe it's even increasing closer to Alta, because then it's connecting to more roads. It's wind and weather sensitive, and the service points are in Hetta, Kautokeino, and Alta. But on the other side, they are quite good. Poor road quality, but improving. And that was an interesting question from one of the participants I heard later, that what kind of criteria, and that's something we have to go into. What is a good road and what is a bad road? The selling points of this is that we have beautiful viewpoints, and there's a lot of activities in the towns, and it's quite unique. I biked quite a lot around the world, but and this is special. And it's also relatively flat, so not very demanding climbs, and it's pure nature. You will go long distances without seeing anything but nature. We have wildlife, and of course the Sami culture and other experiences. But then to the off-road alternative. Let's take part of it. If you see this map, and Hatta is down here, and here is the road, but there is a interesting alternative. You can go to Näkkilä and over the border and follow four-wheel tracks, roady, and different alternatives into Kautokeino. You could also do the old road from Kautokeino to something called Sulawopme, which is a little bit better road, actually. You could do it with at least a gravel bike. And finally, you can do an alternative from Sulawopme to Alta, where it is a pretty good dirt road. You could do the last part with any bike. And you see the road is going this way. And this is, of course, more spectacular when it comes to nature. And the main challenge is in the off-road alternative is, of course, it's the same as with road. Not many restaurants and service points along the route. But it's also that it's skilled bikers only. Partly demanding trails, especially in the beginning from Näkkilä to Kautokeino. And you can experience things like this, but later it's much better. It's also an interesting point that you will be very wet and cold. This is it's high, a high altitude, and of course you have to be prepared that it could be winter, even in July. And also a question mark about border crossing. Can we do that? Go across the border in the wilderness? We have the mosquitoes, we have reindeer herding. It's not a big problem, but parts of the route we will meet reindeer herding, and the reindeer herders are skeptical. But I think we can solve it through education and information. The selling points, of course, viewpoints and scenery. This is the Alta River Canyon. And it's also partly fun biking. I show you the picture where people were struggling how to carry the bike. Here it is, simply fun, and it's doable for everybody. Relatively flat, not very demanding climbs. You also have the history and the mountain cabins. This is Sulawopme, which I mentioned. And in Norway, we have these kind of cabins every 25 kilometers on the old road. Some of them are quite well developed, like this in Sulawopme. Others are not as good. There is also other high-end accommodations and really low quality accommodations, so it varies. So we need a mapping of that as well. Okay, wildlife on the off-road alternative. I think also this has kind of a bucket list potential where people can, in this new world where you present for everybody on social media that this is how we do it. It could be something that people would really go for. And as I mentioned, the service bike renting and experiences in Hatta, Kautokeino and Alta is quite good. And maybe you don't need anything in between. And when we talk to the businesses, that could be a service. If this kind of traffic of tourists is growing, they could have kind of go by car and help people if they call in, if they have trouble. So that could be a kind of a service. And as I mentioned, it could also be built on history. it's interesting when you do it a tour and you're kind of doing what people did 200 years ago on weekday basis just by feet and horses. Yeah, and we also have quite a lot of bike events like the Off-Road Finnmark bike race, 150, 300 and 700 kilometers. It's the longest bike race in Europe, I think, for off-road. And you have Bingisritt, which is a local race between Kautokeino and Masi, a small village just 10 kilometers south of Suluopa. And of course, this could also be thought of as a combined tour, where the really skilled bikers could do the off-road alternative all the way. If you are not that good, you could do it on the road from Hatta to Kautokeino and use this road, which most people are able to do. Or you could go also on road there and do the final part, where I think everybody can do, and with kind of any bike, not a competition road bike, but a normal bike. Here you see a picture of how that road is actually. It is under protection of the law, this road, so it will be maintained. I think it's no problem going even with a car. I think there is one bridge that is problematic, but that's all. Okay, then I'll leave the word over to you, Per-Kåre, and do the Skibotn route. Then I stop presenting.
Okay. And my presentation is on?
Yes.
Okay. I was, or Arild just mentioned bike events, and a type of bike event that is perhaps interesting to share that just took place in August and involved border crossing, I believe, for the first time. And the bike event we talk about is the Arctic Race of Norway, a bike race for professional bicyclists. And when they go the route and the different stages, the roads are closed and are exclusive only for the cyclists in this bike race. So the last part of stage 2 is the region and the destinations that we are looking at, and particularly the Skibotn and Kilpisjärvi and connecting opportunities between these two places. I will mention that we succeeded in doing border crossing with a small group, as we took a larger group of students to Skibotn and did this testing as part of the approach in involving students with real cases in our teaching program at the university. So being on the UIT team, I participated in this 3-day testing of cycling and meeting businesses and people from the destination, and particularly in Skibotn, where we had our camp. So the type of cycling and the type of cyclists, and referring to my comment and question earlier today, So the question we should ask is, what happens when you take non-cyclists or a beginner level cyclists? That is the characteristic of our students or our student group. So when you involve them in cycling, and the picture to the right is a picture of one of the guided tours that our students were able to test. And the testing that took place was mainly off-road, the off-road alternative. And a reason for that is that we were able to do relatively short distance cycling with the students, and the on-road alternative we evaluated being too much risk involved in doing cycling on the road because of what has been mentioned. This is a main road connecting Norway and Finland, and the type of heavy traffic and high-speed traffic on a quite busy road. So in this part of testing, the on-road alternative was not part of this testing. Interesting also Skibotn, and I will mention a little bit on the direction that cycling yet has taken or has been chosen for the municipality and the region that is within this Visit Lyngenfjord destination. So we did this field trip in early September, approximately 1 month ago. I spent 3 days in Skibotn, and both were able to meet the destination, and in this case Georg, that we will meet later today, having 2 workshops with Georg and a few of his colleagues or his network. The business level, we were able to meet in an operational sense, providing guiding, providing services like rental and other types of hospitality. We stayed at the local campground, rental cabins, and also, of course, then at the product level, being able to test and experience cycling. For the main group, we stayed and operated out of Skibotn in Norway. We were able to cross the border with 4 students and go to Kilpisjärvi for a 1-day visit. And a couple of pictures are from Kilpisjärvi, where we also were able to meet some of the businesses up there. Some of the observations being with the students and the student groups in the process of working, doing field work, and beginning their project work that is yet in progress. It's due later this semester, so my observations on behalf of the group are so to speak preliminary. So pointing out at the natural and cultural resources of the region, we have mentioned some of the events taking place in this area. There is this existing winter concept of summit to sea that is quite easy to connect to, and also with the ties to the clothing brand, quite well-known clothing brand in Norway called Norway has their own Skibotn brand and ties in with the type of cycling that the typical brand of Skibotn is connected with, the trail cycling or mountain biking. We got to test the type of cycling on trails that are well suited for slow biking. We were testing different types of bikes, particularly e-bikes and fat bikes, and observing how much particularly e-bikes levels out the experience level of a group. And perhaps that's something that will be elaborated on when we get a more finalized report from the students as well. So interesting, and perhaps something we also can discuss with Georg later, is that when contesting a bit the slow rather than fast concept of bicycling, and the way businesses have developed one type of tourism concept, and when we bring in into the discussion a different type of cycling or doing commercial product development, and it will both involve transportation, accommodation, and food, and certainly cycling specific services, the guiding, the rentals, and the repair that is involved. Also with the students, we are focused on looking at all sustainability issues, how this activity and this product development is part of the green shift, and of course the opportunity we have then to look at cross-border opportunities between the partners in this project.
Arcor, I just need you to slowly wrap it up so we have some time for questions. 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Final slide. Bonus material, in a way, what we have done, we have had a meeting, a digital workshop with Visit Lyngenfjord and different businesses in April. We observe as we go that already in 2010, Northern Norway Tourism Board started to look at cycling in Skibotn. Visit Lyngenfjord has developed this trail guide, or selected trails in this region, targeted towards one type of cyclist segment at a more expert level. And this is in line with this clothing company, Norway, and their collection. Also interesting then to contrast what is a trending activity and trending development in Norway in general, that and in this case a concept called Tour de Dovre in the south, scoring quite high, I think, on what we have aimed at looking at, different qualities and contrasting what type of cycling has been packaged and developed previously. So a way of connecting technology and opportunities and in different areas in Norway is going on as we speak. So for now, thank you.
Thank you, Arild and Per Kåre. Very interesting, beautiful pictures as well from the north of Norway. Do we have any questions on the Norwegian presentations? There must be, yes. Now I have to see where the hand is up. Taneli Roinen, please.
Yes, just a quick comment on the Norwegian off-road route part that Arild presented. That is something that I've looked into as well, and I actually do have a route section called Arctic Post Road, which starts from where I live at the Fell Lapland at Ullas. And the old post road goes through this area. Sometimes you can see it in the nature. Sometimes it's an easy to ride gravel road. Yeah, and that section, it's fantastic. Arctic Ocean. For me, as a bike tourer who's been on the road soon nearly 60,000 kilometers, it's like I can truly say it could be one of the highlights in the world. So I really encourage to look into publishing that. And also I've looked into having actually 3 versions of that route as well. So there is the more challenging route sections that Arild presented. Those would be involved in the like true bikepacking off-road single track version, which suits for more challenging, the more experienced tourers. And those, and on the Finnish side, the route section would be up in the fells, have the best views in the country, quite challenging. But then as an alternative, there would be a mixed terrain, paved and gravel road version, which is really nice as well. And that would take the advantage naturally of the post road on the Norwegian part. And then as a third, even be a winter version maybe, and also like to do in the spring on snow when the snowmobile routes. If the wind is not too high, they're hard packed. You can move efficiently even with your gear from service to service. And the true highlight of this route is not only the scenes, but you could do these routes maybe even without a tent. If you plan it right, you can do it without a tent from service to service, all the way from Ullas to Arctic Ocean. So it's quite exciting. We have an exciting place where you work, Per Kåre and Arild. Fantastic views and fantastic routes.
Would Per Kåre and Arild like to comment? You have 1 minute and then we take lunch.
Yeah, thank you. Just 2 comments. First of all, that I think I have to emphasize that there are businesses ready to develop this, and there is a big potential for cross-boarding routes, and I hope you are able to test that. And also, the final comment from me is that if you see my background picture, it is actually a fat bike tour that could be more or less the same as we did now. This is from Alta to Karasjok, and we also lived in the state cabins from the old post route. So there was a question earlier today that what is the season? Maybe it's there is no season. Maybe we can do it all over the year. But of course, the weather, it is like it is. Thank you.
If Per Kåre stops sharing, we can see your background picture.
Yes, and did Per Kåre, you had your hand raised. I don't know, was it an old hand or a new hand? But
A new hand.
new hand, okay,
Yeah,
a very short hand.
Very short, and reconnecting with the Taneli, and it's and of course both we have spoken earlier with Taneli, and of course we see many connecting points between the projects that you are pointing out, Taneli, and I think also it's very important to notice that when we go to and visit and do field work, we realized that the bikes that are available are in many ways makes seasons less interesting, because the fat bikes, that they are as useful and more or less no matter the season. So it's more like how you make trails accessible and how you package the products and make concepts available to visitors, I think.
Thank you. I think we cut it there and continue a 11 Swedish Norwegian time and 12 Finnish time. So you have 25, 6, 7 minutes to stretch your legs. Okay, and welcome back. Thanks.